concept, as it is very important for you in order to have data driven, like passing the data from the Excel document to your automation script. Okay, so how to work with data driven framework in Selenium using Apache POI. So I hope it is visible to you guys. Is it visible? Okay, fine. So how to work with data driven framework in Selenium using Apache POI. As we know that nowadays data driven framework is one of the most important framework that we use in our automation testing in any web application, and which test data set is created in the Excel sheet and is then imported into our application during we perform automation testing. Simply we are saying that nowadays we are using data driven framework. For which purpose we are using data driven framework here is to pass the data from the Excel sheet to the application. Here the application, in the sense the application will be accessed by using Selenium automated script. That is what we are saying based on this point. So here we are launching the browser, we are opening the application. To that open application we are sending data from the Excel document. So that is what we are explaining about data driven framework. We know that to test any functionality of an application we need to test multiple input values. Sometimes it counts is 100 to 1000. So it is a headache. Like this is something like valid and invalid concept, where we are going to pass the data with multiple sets of data. Simple example I can say, a company is there where thousands of employees are there. Next day 100 people joined, 100 employees joined in the same company. We need to add the records, 100 records into the application through automation, through automated script. That is what we are saying here. So simple logic is, sometimes we are going to deal with 10 records, sometimes we are going to deal with 100 records, sometimes we need to send thousands or 10,000 records to our application, where we can have regression testing in at this point. So to avoid that repetitive task to add the users into the application manually, we are doing the same task through automation script, which is nothing but the concept of data driven framework. So in this data driven framework concept, below are the below are the files that can be supported by Apache POI. It can be Excel files, it can be CSV, it can be ODBC. It's all about like database files. ADO objects, this is also one type of stored procedures in the database, and all these are all the supportive formats for the Selenium WebDriver using Apache POI. Here we are using Excel document for our understanding purpose, where we are sending data from the Excel document to our automation script, and that automation script will be access the data in the application. What is Apache POI? Before start accessing the data from the Excel files, we have to know what is meant by Apache POI and why we are using POI in this framework. So POI means poor obfuscation implementation. So it's all about the abbreviation of POI. It is an API written in Java to support read and write operation. POI written in Java programming language, where it supports read and write operations. This read and write operations may be from Excel documents or CSV or ADO objects or anything. So we are not talking about like specific format. So it's all about how it is going to read the operations and write the operations. So this is most common API used for Selenium driven testing, data driven testing. What do we need to implement data driven framework? What are all the things required to implement this one? So in order to follow this approach, we must have Eclipse, already we have. We need to have TestNG, already we have. If TestNG is not configured, we need to install TestNG in the Eclipse. So once the TestNG has been installed, we need to have Apache POI, and we need to integrate that to our Eclipse, and then we need to read the data from the Excel sheet, and then we need to write the data to Excel sheet, and Last thing is advantages of using Apache POI in Selenium that we need to know. This is all about the concept of data driven framework. Let's start with POI completely now. So one of the most remarkable features of POI is that it supports both read and write operation of both XLS format and XLSX files. We already discussed about this point. POI supports both XLS format and XLSX format, but JXL supports only XLS format. And below are the keywords that are being mentioned regarding POI. One is XSSF workbook, which represents that Excel file. HSSF workbook, which represent only XLS file. Though these are the formats, look it carefully, observe it carefully. If it is X, starts with X, then the extension will be .xlsx. If the extension starts with H, the extension will be .xls only. For every time, the same thing. Sheet, row, and then cell value, everything will be started with X or H. Now, follow the below steps to start with data-driven framework in Selenium WebDriver. Integrate Apache POI into Eclipse first. So once you integrate, firstly we need to configure Eclipse with Apache POI. We know how to download this one. So to download this one, we need to go to Apache POI libraries binary section, and we need to download the files, and we need to configure it here in the Eclipse by using configure build path. And then second thing, prepare write data in the Excel sheet. Prepare one Excel sheet with some set of data. After configuring the respective jar files, create an Excel sheet, enter some data in it, and save it in the format of filename.xls. So I'm going to do this process now. Anyhow, I have installed 2007 today. So we follow this process only, no need to worry. Let us implement to understand the same process what we have here. Just I'm going to use test case, username, password. That's it. I don't know, I'm not using any other things here. So here I need to mention username, here sorry, test case, here I need to mention username, here I need to mention password. So firstly I'm going to open the Eclipse now to understand it clearly. I'm going to launch this Eclipse. So Eclipse has been opened. I'm going to open the script. I'm going to open the script. Now the script name is, file name is read write data, right? So I'm going to mention read write data, and the username will be Martin Stephen 369@gmail.com. Password for our reference, just I am giving test@123. Once I have prepared that file, I need to save the file with file name .xls. File name .xls. I am going to save this file as, so this one is the folder test ng data I'm going to provide. So here the name would be .xls. Have been saved this file. I'm going to close this file now. Next thing is read data from the Excel. Here we already know I defined that file name extension as .xls, where in that case, if I want to read anything, like it may be workbook, it may be sheet, it may be cell, or it may be row, anything, it should start with HSSF workbook or sheet or row number or whatever it might be. So that is what we have mentioned here. Here, if you observe this one, read data from Excel sheet. In my code file, I wrote all Excel operation methods. Get cell data. This method reads the test data from the Excel cell. We are passing row number and column number as parameters. Get row data. It will consider the row number. Set cell data. Everything will be cleared here. We are talking about something what we have mentioned in the Excel document. So no need to worry about these things. Next thing, we need to write the program in order to read the data from the Excel file. In order to read the data from the Excel file. Let us start writing the program. Don't get any confusions over here. Just I am going to write the program. I'm going to remove this one also. At the rate, I'm going to write at the rate test. The same program, what you are seeing on the screen, I'm going to write the same program. So for this, we need to import at the rate test public read write data. I'm going to start with WebDriver. Oh. First, I'm going to define WebDriver driver, and then WebDriver wait. Sorry. And then it is all about .xls format, right? I'm going to use this term HSSF workbook and then HSSF sheet. It is nothing but sheet. And then cell, HSSF cell. It is nothing but cell. Have been used the data. Now I'm going to start with at the rate before test. At the rate before test public void test setup. Now system dot set property of, we need to provide WebDriver dot Chrome dot driver, comma, we need to provide the path here. So just I'll copy the path and URL from this. This will be open the browser, and then next thing is page load time and URL. Anyhow, I need to have maximize. I need to have the same thing. Now I'm going to import everything here. Okay, so up to here I have passed the URL and entered some data. Now here above I mentioned my all Excel functions and declare them in a class file read write Excel. Now I'm going to change now I'm going to start reading the data from the Excel document where I can have everything here. So see this image. See this image clearly. It is going to explain you how it is going to be, how the data is going to read from the file. Now I'm going to start with public void read data. Okay, now onwards. Yes. So now we'll start reading the file. Now file src is equals to new file where have been saved that file. I need to mention the path here. Let us take the path. Copy this one and then file name. I'm copying this one. For path we need to have forward slash, and then here also, and then here also. Once we are ready with this file import file concept, then we need to load the file as we discussed in yesterday's session. File input stream if input is equals to new file input stream. So from where we are loading the file means src, and then we need to start accessing the workbook. Workbook is equals to new HSSF workbook of previous one F input, and then we need to load the sheet. Sheet is equals to workbook dot get sheet at starts with index 0. I'm going to give semicolon here. Now we'll start reading the data. Int just I'm giving lt here. Int amp. I'm going to start with for loop. Int I is equals to 1 starts with second row. I less than or equal to sheet dot get last row number, and then I plus plus. I'll explain you, don't worry about this, but you need to understand what I am writing. Cell is equal to sheet dot get row of I. Row index means I only, we start with I dot get cell of now. We are talking about cell inside the data, what we have been in that particular cell. Cell dot set cell type of cell dot this one cell type string semicolon. Now driver dot find element by id. What is the id value? Dot send keys of cell dot get string cell value. So here what is this id of that particular element? Do we have? Yes, email. I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to give it here. Now I'm going to talk about cell to data. Cell dot cell is equals to, here already we have been mentioned, right, the same thing. So this is now not 2, this is 1, this is 2. Now I'm going to give password, the same statement. Password, what is the id for this? I'm going to copy this one, giving password here. Now the reading of data has been completed. Now our job is to write the data. Now I'm going to unmute the mic. Please let me know if you are not understanding till now what I have been mentioned here. Yeah, I have created one @test ng annotation where I have been defined all the requirements prerequisites in this particular method. In this method, first I did here was simply whatever the requirements related to the workbook or Excel document that I have been mentioned here, where I am going to access everything from this point. So if you want me to have, okay, first whatever the prerequisites that I have related to the Excel document I have been mentioned here. One, I defined the workbook. Second, I defined the sheet. Third, I defined the cell. Once I defined all these things, I'm going to start designing the script where I'm going to pass the data from the Excel document like username and password to the script directly. So to do that process, first I need to open the browser and enter the URL. Once I did that process, then only I can pass the data to my username and password field from the Excel document. That is what in the first step that I have been performed. In the next step here, I am doing reading the file, and then once I read the file from the path, and then I'm going to open the file, and then I'm going to open the workbook, and then in that I'm going to access the sheet here. Here the index starts from 0. That is the reason I have mentioned 0 here. Once I have done with this part, and then slowly I am going to start the rows and columns inside the program. So so to read the data, first I load the file, and then I open the file based on the sheet I have been mentioned here. To open and read the file, my target is, if there are n number of records, I need to read the n number of records. So that is the reason I have mentioned loop here. For loop is used to read the n number of records in the Excel file. So that is the reason I have used for loop. In this, first I am going to read the data from the cell where the cell number is 1. Slowly, the data from the cell number 1, I am going to put it in email field, where the email field will pass the data from this cell value, and then second cell value, like that I have read the data. Now my job is to write the data in this, at this point. How to write the data? How to write the data? Let us see. Just I am going to write the program now, how to write the data. So we'll resolve this issue after that. Input has been done. The next step is output. Output. File, output, stream, if output is equals to new file, output, stream. New file, output, stream. The same thing, source will be there. Then string message is equals to, I'm going to print a message, data imported successfully, so that I'll have a confirmation over here that the data has been imported. Now sheet dot get row of I dot create cell 3 dot I am going to pass the message here. Now to display this in the output value, f output is equals to new file output stream of src again workbook dot write of file output. At last, this is what our program to read and write the data from the Excel document.